You're listening to the AfterBuzz TV network, now the largest new media platform on the web, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment.
Very good, Dean Johnson.
From the AfterBuzz Studios, live in Los Angeles, California. Presented by Maria Menounos and Bing.com. Streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies. This is AfterBuzz TV's Chatting with Cathy.
Hello everyone, Bing is for doing, and today we are doing another episode of Chatting with Cathy. I'm your host, Cathy Kelly, and joining me today is Miami born and raised actor, director, producer, writer, Oscar Torres. Oscar, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
And you have an impressive list of credits to your name.
Thank you.
I mean, you really have so many, guest roles and roles in movies. You're now in the upcoming, or I guess it's out now.
It's out.
Hangover 3.
Yes.
Officer Vasquez.
Vasquez.
And I thought the movie was hilarious.
You liked it. I'm glad you did.
I liked it. And I watched out for you because I knew that you were going to be a guest on the show.
Me.
Yes.
Not Bradley Cooper. Not.
I really enjoyed the first two films, and I really liked the third one as well.
I did too. I was a big fan of both films.
Yeah.
So when I got cast in the third one, I go, wow, I won the lotto.
Yeah. And working with those names must have been so much fun.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. I mean, it's no surprise that the films have been so successful.
Yeah.
When you work in the films and you see them, you see how they work and that they really seem to be, friends.
Yeah.
They have that.
I mean,
chemistry.
they've worked together so much.
And the director. And the director's the same way with
Yeah.
him. He was fantastic to work with also.
Yeah. And I want to talk more about The Hangover 3 and any other projects that you're working on upcoming at the end of the show. But first, I want to take it back to the very beginning. You were born and raised.
A baby.
Yes, you were a baby at one point, as we all are. So you were born and raised in Miami.
Born and raised in Miami.
And you're of Cubano heritage.
Yes.
And
yes.
So what was your family life like growing up?
Chaotic.
Chaotic?
No, Cubans are, I grew up in Miami, like you said. I was born and raised in Miami. A lot of Cubans in Miami. We're majority. Well, it feels like we're majority in Miami. So growing up was like I never felt like an immigrant, even though I was born here.
Yeah.
But I never felt over the whole immigrant mentality from the family because we were a majority. I mean, the mayor, the commissioner, everybody, the cops when you got stopped were Cuban. They spoke to you in Spanish.
Yeah.
So it's like it was interesting. It's like living in a third world country, but in the U.S. with all the great things that the U.S. has. But at the same time, you feel right at home.
Yeah.
So I think I had the privilege of having the best of both worlds, maintaining my culture, but also being an American.
Do you still get to speak Spanish a lot here?
In LA, yeah, there's a lot of Spanish speakers. Whenever I go to a restaurant, I order in Spanish.
Yeah. So I know that you have an interesting story of how you got involved in acting. You were in college,
Yes.
and you took an acting class as an elective, not really thinking you would pursue it as a career, but you fell in love.
That's exactly how it's actually even crazier than that. My girlfriend at the time, I asked her to sign me up for a class. It wasn't an acting class, and she chose an acting class.
Really?
As a joke. As a joke, because I was very shy, so she thought it would be humorous to put me in an acting class, and I ended up being in the class, and I was horrible. I didn't even want to be there. I would sit in class and just like this, and I'm looking at people doing imaginary exercises, the ball that's not there, they're imagining they're passing the ball, and I'm like, what are these people doing? They're crazy. They need therapy. And the last class, the teacher told me, you need to go up on stage and do something because I'm gonna fail you. I'm in college.
She's gonna fail you?
Yeah, I hadn't done anything. I had sat the whole semester in class and I had not gone up on stage, and was not very cooperative in the exercises or anything. So at that point, I had to do an exercise, and I did an exercise of something personal to me, which was because it was doing something personal. The exercise, you need to bring a personal moment on stage. So I did this my grandma had passed away a few years back, and I go, wow, that's the only thing I can think of. So I remember going over that moment when I walked in the intensive care unit to say goodbye to my grandmother.
Oh, wow.
And so I went through the steps in my head. I had no idea what I was doing. It turns out that I was doing sense memory for those who are actors. You know, you're reliving the moment, all the senses.
And you were close to your grandma?
I was very close. She had raised me. So I'm going through the exercise in my head while I'm walking in. But the moment I took the step and I was inside the intensive care unit, in my head, I saw my grandmother there. And it was magical. I forgot that there was an audience. I forgot that I was up on stage. I was actually there saying goodbye to my grandma. It was a magical moment, and from that moment on, I was hooked.
And so I know you mentioned that your grandmother, she raised you. How did you draw from that moment without like how did you use that moment in class, I guess?
Well, I didn't know what I was doing. What I did was I tried remembering. Okay, I remember I was sitting on the floor when I was waiting to go in the room, and I was waiting for the doctors to come on and say, okay, you can go now and say goodbye to your grandma. And I remember being really cold. I remember it was playing on the TV. It was the World Series was going on. It was in October. And I remember the back of the TV. So I started going through everything that I remembered. And then I remember walking really slowly, and these double doors, and there were a bunch of beds in the intensive care unit, and I'm looking for my grandma. So I went through the steps of what I sensed, what I was feeling at the moment. And later on, I didn't know that it's called sense memory, what I was doing. I found out, I learned it by mistake. And so that's how I went through each sense of what was happening. And then, but I was kind of doing it in a conscious, it was affecting me, but I was doing it consciously until the moment I saw my grandmother. The moment I saw my grandmother, I wasn't acting anymore. I wasn't going through any exercise in my head. She was there. Yeah.
And that's what they say, the best acting is when you're not acting.
Exactly.
So you ended up not failing that class, I'm assuming.
She passed me. She passed me, and she told me you should maybe take acting a little more serious. So I didn't want to admit it at first because that wasn't my major. Psychology was my major, but I was hooked.
So what was the plan before? Like, were you going to be a psychologist, or what did you want to?
I wanted to be a psychologist.
Okay.
I wanted to be a psychologist, and I did work at a mental hospital for 6 years.
Wow.
Yeah, the best acting school I ever went to.
And did your family support you when you decided to pursue acting?
They did. They did. My parents supported me. They were like, well, that's great. Okay, pursue it. I think they thought I was crazy.
They thought you were crazy?
They thought I was a little crazy, and that eventually, I have a feeling that they thought eventually, you know, maybe this is just a face. But then they realized that it wasn't. And then when I moved to LA, they were like, okay, this is real. And then I think when I moved to LA, they also thought that I might move back eventually.
Yeah. So acting is one of the professions where you do have to be outgoing.
Yes,
and I know you mentioned you were shy. What was the turning point in your career, in your life, when you realized that you had to, you know, try to be more outgoing?
Well, I find that a lot of actors are shy.
Really?
A lot of actors are shy. I believe so. For me, it's once I get into character, and I believe the moment, and you're the other character that and I have a relationship with you, and I'm at that place. I'm not shy. I am. This is me. I am this person. It's when they say cut, you know, and I get back into my own that I go back to like, okay, you know, I am shy. And I was doing a film last year in Miami about this guy who's over the top, and he's a clip called Eeny, Meeny, Miny, Mo. It's been a film festival. It was at the Miami International Film Festival. And he's over the top, and he's a ladies' man, and he's flirtatious, and he's always on something. And I would get to a set, I would be really quiet, get into makeup, and then something would click.
You turn it on.
I would turn it on. I was this person. I could flirt with everybody on the set, and I didn't care. And then cut. You know, at the end of the day, I would go back. And I remember my makeup. They go like, hey, the character's name was Jimmy. And they go like, hey, when's Jimmy gonna show up? Because I was quiet until I turned it on. Once I turned it on, I was the loudest person in the room, and I was. So it's interesting how that happens. Once it's almost as I feel more comfortable. Once I have the character.
Once you're in character.
Yeah.
And I know that a lot of people told you that you couldn't pursue acting or you shouldn't pursue acting. How did you overcome that?
Well, I thought they were crazy. I used it as fuel. I said, I'm going to show them. I'm going to show them. It kept me going. It kept me here. It kept me, believing in myself when everything else was indicating not to. Because if I quit, then they were right. They were right. And in my heart, I thought I could actually do this.
And sometimes people saying negative things are the best motivation to go out and do something.
For me, it was that was the voices that I kept hearing when I wanted to quit, when things weren't going my way, when we're getting a million no's, when auditions wouldn't go my way. I kept like, well, if I quit, I'm proving them right. They were right. And I wasted time. Yeah.
Are any of those people who are close to you who said you couldn't do it, are they still in your life?
Somewhat. I mean, they were mostly friends. Nobody in my family ever said you couldn't do it.
They all believed in you?
They all believed in me or said they believed in me, They never said no. There were more friends that, I told me, some believed in me, but said, but don't go to LA, there's too much competition there. So they somewhat believed in me. Limitedly, they had a limited belief in me.
Yeah.
And others just said, no, man, don't, you're not that good of an actor.
That's so rude.
When I was starting out, you're not that good of an actor.
I mean, I feel like acting, a lot of people think that it's something that you're born with, but it's something that you really learn. It is something that you have to, teach yourself and go through classes to do.
Totally. I mean, you have to have some talent. You have to have talent, I believe. But unless you try it, if this is something you're passionate about, unless you try it, you don't know if you do have the talent. Because when I first started, I was horrible. I really was. I was horrible. I can't watch the things that.
Really?
But you need to be horrible.
Yeah.
And I envy those people who are not horrible. But at the same time, they don't know what it's like to fail. And this is a business that you fail a lot, even when you're highly successful.
Yeah.
So I think that motivated me, and that but deep inside me, I would look at performances and I go, I can do that. I don't know how to do it yet, but I know I can do that. And that's what kept me going.
Yeah. So I know that you had a lot of roles in Miami before you made the move out to LA. What was the deciding factor in making that move?
Moving out here? It was a film. It was a film called Libertad. It was in English, but the title was in Spanish. I don't know why. Freedom. And I played the lead role. It was a political prison in Cuba, based loosely on true story. It was based on true stories. My character was fictitious, but it was based on true stories. And I played the main character in that film, and the film had some success at an independent level. It showed in theaters, and it played here in LA, also limited in LA, but in Miami it was huge. And but the fact that I was able to play the main character and carry a film, I think I was probably in almost every scene in the film, told me I can do this.
Yeah.
I can do this. I can do this at the next level. The only difference is the budget. That's about it,
Yeah. And your breakout role was in Cain on CBS. And what did you take away from that experience?
Same thing. It was an affirmation of what I believed, that I believed I could, I can act, I can work. And it was given that role, and my role getting bigger and bigger as the show went on, and the response of the audience told me, you know what, I am doing the right thing, and I am in the chosen. I am doing the correct profession. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life.
Yeah, and I know a lot of actors always say that getting a series regular role is kind of like hitting the jackpot, because you don't have to go on auditions for a while. You know that you have a steady thing going.
It's the closest thing to a regular job. You're not doing a regular job. You show up.
Yeah.
You're here. you show up and there's a routine that kind of feels comfortable for an actor because you're not used to it. You're used to being unemployed. Even when you work on a big film, you shoot the big film, but the next day you're unemployed.
Yeah.
You're back to square one. But it makes, I feel that every role that has some exposure, like Cain or Hangover 3 now, makes it a little bit easier because if nothing else, when you go in a room, they've seen your work. So that's off the table. I feel like I don't have to, you still want to do well.
Yeah.
There's always that pressure. You put it on yourself. But at the same time, you know, well, okay, you know, there's a good chance that somebody in that room has seen my work, and I don't have to. They know I'm a good actor. I might do badly in the audition. That's very possible. But they've seen my work. They know I can deliver.
So they know that you can deliver something other than what you did in the room.
Than what I did in the room if I'm horrible.
So what do you do when you are, you know, off a film, or like what do you do in your downtime?
In my downtime?
Yeah.
Watch other films. I'm a little bit boring. Work out, look for projects, try to develop projects. I try to write, find other filmmakers, try to create work for myself so I don't have to be sitting around and waiting for somebody else to give me a job.
Yeah.
And that puts out an energy, I think. Even if it ends up not happening, it puts out an energy of like when I go to an audition or a job interview, or I'm like, I don't have that pressure that if I don't get this job, because you always get that sense as an actor, at least I do, I might never work again. So it takes that off the table, like, okay, you know, yeah, I will work again, even if it means that I have to hire myself.
Yeah.
But I will work again, and that's what I find myself doing in the off time, and just watching what's out there, watching films, watching TV, going to museums, trying to do other things, and until that next job comes along.
Going back to Cain, I know that you have an interesting story of how you got cast in that role.
You did good.
So
I feel like I'm inside the actor studio, and here's James Lipton with the cards.
Yeah. So you read for the script, and just tell us the story behind that audition.
Okay. I didn't have any credits. I mean, I didn't have any Hollywood credits.
Yeah.
I had done some stuff in Miami, like I had said, Libertad, but here in Hollywood, you get here and starting all over again. And I remember the breakdown came out of this role, and my manager, Elino Farrow, who was somebody who believed in me, by the way, when nobody wanted to represent me.
Yeah.
After I was in Cain, I started getting calls. No, who's representing you? No, I'd like to rep. No, a little too late now.
Yeah.
I'm on the show now. I don't need you to represent me. The breakdowns came out, and there was this role in Cain, but they didn't want to. Santos, yeah, but they didn't want to see me. And the role was, interesting enough, I was, according to the breakdown, I wasn't right for the role. The only thing I was right for the role was that I was Cuban, that my background was Cuban. Everything else, I wasn't right for the role because it said Jimmy Smith's about 6'4", 6'5", so he's a big guy. So they were looking for somebody that was the same height. So it said 6'2", 6'3", lanky, mulatto, Cuban, full of tattoos for the role. I'm not 6'3". I'm not, mulatto. I don't have any tattoos. So, but I really wanted that role. And I thought, I read the scenes and I'm like, I'm perfect for this. So we put myself on tape, on DVD, actually. Tape. People say tape. There's no tape. On DVD, and we sent it to the casting. So they brought me in, and I read with the casting director. And at all times, I was in character. I go, I have to make them believe that I'm this actor that just got here from Cuba.
Yeah.
This discovery. So I auditioned for the casting director, so I got a call back. And here I am. I show up to the callback, and I walk into the door, and everybody's there. Jimmy Smith is sitting there. He stands up and he's huge. I'm like, wow, this guy's really tall. Jimmy Smith is there. Cynthia Cedre, who was the creator of the show with Jonathan Prince. And Cynthia Cedre had written Mambo Kings, a film that I had seen when I was growing up. And they're all there. And I'm like, okay, keep the character. Don't break character. So I go, hey, how you doing? How you doing? Hey, nice meeting you. Mucho gusto, mucho gusto. Like, because my character was a guy who had just arrived from Cuba. So I played all along, you know, I had drawn myself some fake
tattoos.
Some fake tattoos. So I'm like, oh yeah, no, mucho gusto, you me. I got in here and pronounce it right. So they were all looking at me like, where did this guy come from? So I did the audition, and I got cast.
And you also, I think I heard that you told a story about like.
Well, wow, this is great. I told a story. I went to this little story because my character was from a place in Cuba, and the script said that I was from Matanzas. It's a place in Cuba.
Yeah.
I've never been in Cuba, by the way.
You've never been to Cuba?
I've never been to Cuba.
Okay.
Because my parents came when they were very young. So the character's from Matanzas, and I'm like, oh, by the way, you know, interesting story that my character is from Matanzas, and it turns out that my dad is from Matanzas in real life, and my grandfather had the biggest funeral home in all of Matanzas. And my character's a killer. He's a hitman. That's why I'm talking about my grandfather had a funeral home in all of Matanzas. You know, biggest funeral home in all of Matanzas. Of course, Matanzas is not very big, so, you know, funeral home was not that big, but it was big in Matanzas. And they were all laughing and stuff that I don't recommend doing the most part. But you know what? I had no credits, so I went for it. I took a chance, and I go like, you know, these people, and they were seeing other name actors or actors with a lot more credits than myself. So I'm like, I'm gonna go for it. So I walked out of the room, and later on I found out they said, that's him. That's him. That guy's not acting. We found somebody. That guy just got here.
Yeah.
So I think I was doing, it was like episode 2 or something like that, and I'm sitting waiting to shoot a scene in the car because I played the hitman bodyguard driver of Jimmy Smith's character, and Jimmy turns to me and said, and when I was on the set, I kind of stayed in character. Okay. Joking around because I didn't want to lose the accent, so I was like, I kept talking like this, hey, Mr. Vega, and I'm sitting in the car, and Jimmy's like, looks at me and goes, hey, so when you came from Cuba, did you come on a raft, or you came on a boat, or you came on an airplane? And I looked at him like, no, man, I was born in Miami. Yeah. He's like, he started laughing. He goes, you know, we really thought we were getting an actor who had just arrived from Cuba or something.
That's crazy. Because there's always that debate of, you know, when you are an actor and you go into an audition, whether you stay in character the entire time or you just do it when you're auditioning.
I know. And I would say, you know, do whatever feels comfortable to you at that moment. Yeah. Unless the only thing you don't want to do is, if you're playing a crazy person, make them think that you're really crazy. Yeah. Or scare them like, you know, I'm not going to be able to work with this person. Yeah. That you don't want to do.
Well, you've gone for a lot of roles where you've been the murderer or killer. So what do you do in the audition?
I killed a few people, but
you don't go in and make them think that you're a mass murderer.
No, you try not to, unless they're really looking for that. Then, you know, you do what you got to do.
Okay.
No.
So other television roles that you've been in, you have been in CSI Miami.
CSI Miami, yeah.
And you're from Miami.
I'm from Miami.
Although the show tapes in in Manhattan Beach, right?
Manhattan Beach.
So was that kind of a disappointment for you?
No, because I knew that they would. They actually, the episode I was in, they shot some in Miami. I didn't get to go to Miami. I was disappointed in that. You know, I'm always looking for a free trip to Miami. Yeah. Cain, we did shoot in Miami part. But we shot in Miami a couple days, which was great to go back home and shoot there. But most of the show we shot in the studios, in CBS studios.
So in CSI Miami, I know you were in an episode in 2003 and then in another episode.
No, actually, that wasn't me.
Really?
That wasn't me. I got you one.
Your IMDb lies?
IMDb lies sometimes.
Oh, that
wasn't
completely screws up my next question.
I've sent them a million times. I can lie if you want.
I was going to ask you.
In 2003, it was my big break, CSI Miami. Yes, as Officer Victor Perez.
Yes.
That was not me.
It wasn't you.
No, that's a friend of mine. That's a friend. They screwed it up.
Okay.
Don't blame me.
No, I didn't blame you.
You just say, how did you screw that up?
How did they screw it up?
Oh, they screwed it up. They screwed up a few things, IMDb.
Well, did you change your last name?
I dropped the S.
Okay. So what was the reason for that?
Because that guy.
Really?
That is the reason for that.
Because there was an Oscar Torres.
There's an Oscar Torres who's not an actor anymore. He's a writer. He's actually a friend of mine.
Yeah.
And he had just written a film that was getting some attention, and I had done a film called Ladrón que roba ladrón, which that was something else that was actually came out at the same time as Cain, and opened doors for me. And we were getting confused, and I was getting calls for him, and I'm sure he was getting calls for me. So I'm like, I'm gonna drop the S.
Yeah.
And then I asked a cousin of mine who's out here, who's also an actor. I go, you know, I'm debating this. I was really debating whether to drop the S and change. He's like, you know what? Cubans don't pronounce the S anyway at the end of the word, so drop it. Nobody's gonna change it. It's not gonna change the pronunciation of your name.
Well, that's cool.
So that's why I dropped the S.
Okay. So on Cold Case.
Cold Case.
Well, did you actually do that show?
I think that was me. I
Okay.
think Victor, that CSI Miami is the only credit that's not accurate on IMDb.
So on Cold Case, you played a Cuban-born baseball player
Yes.
who got sent back to Cuba, and you end up in the show murdering your brother.
My cousin.
Your cousin,
My
okay.
cousin. Who was like a brother.
Okay. And in the audition for that, I know it was another audition where you felt like you nailed it when you went in, and they actually called you back before you even got to your car.
When I was getting to my car, yeah. When I was in my car, when I got to the car, that was it just shows you to show up to anything. There was a table read. This was right after Cain. There was a table read for a film that my cousin had written. Actually, the same cousin who I had asked about the last name.
Okay.
His name is Julio Machoso, excellent actor, who's been here a long time. He had written a film and he wanted to hear it out. And he asked me, hey, can you come and read one of the characters, whatever. So I showed up to read one of the characters. So there I met Danny Pino. Danny Pino was the lead in Cold Case. I had never met Danny Pino. So Danny and I are playing like best friends in the table read. And after the table read, Danny tells me, look, I wrote this episode of Cold Case, which is the episode I ended up being.
Yeah.
There's a role, the main character in the episode, one of the two main characters in the episode you'd be perfect for. Would you mind coming in and audition? I'll recommend you. I'll say that, you know, I'll put you in the list if you want to come in. I go, I'd love to. So that's how it happened. If I would have never gone to that table read, I probably would have not done Cold Case.
Everything happens for a reason.
Everything happens for a reason. You never know. You just need to show up.
So your most recent role was Hangover 3, or the one that people can see most recently.
Most recently that I can see, yeah.
That came out last week, so congratulations.
Thank you.
And the series of The Hangover was directed by Todd Phillips,
Yes.
Who has countless directing credits. I mean, old school, The Hangover series,
classics,
Due Date, so many comedies, Starsky and Hutch.
That's
I
true.
loved all of them. So what did you learn from working with Todd?
Todd, you know what? It was great. It was a lot of fun working with him because he creates an environment on the set that you feel like you can't fail. And that's great for an actor because once you have that, you know, you feel like you can try anything. There are no rules when you're shooting the scene, really, you know. And we would shoot a scene and he would come in and he would tell one of the guys, or he would tell me, you know, that line, let's change the line. Let's try this. He's always looking to make the scene funnier and make the scene work and click. And so he kept trying different things. And so that was great because I'm like, okay, I can try anything. I can. There's a scene that Bradley Cooper's. We're having a conversation and he just with Zach, and he's reacting to something Zach is saying, but I play this chief of police and I'm questioning them, and I banged it. It's not in the film, but I banged it right in front, and Bradley jumps up. It's like, and he looks, and I felt free to do that.
Yeah.
With a different director, maybe I wouldn't have done it because I'm like, maybe he would have like, no, don't bang the table or whatever. Maybe I ruined that take. Maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't care because he didn't care. He just you can sense that he just wanted the actors to try things.
Yeah. And the actors that you worked with, Ed Helms, Zach Galifianakis, Bradley Cooper, they are all so funny. And your character was supposed to be very serious in the role,
serious,
Officer Vasquez.
Although I'm saying funny things.
Yes, you were.
I'm saying funny things,
Did
but
you
you
ever
had to keep
break?
it serious. Did I ever break? Not what I was saying, the lines, but after they said cut, yeah, Zach
just start laughing?
Zach would make me laugh.
He's a funny dude.
He's a funny dude, and some of his funniest takes are can't be in the film.
Really?
Because the stuff that he's there's a lot, they kept changing lines, and like I said, Todd Phillips gives you that freedom. So there was a scene that he kept, every take he would say something different, and it was it was just getting funnier and funnier and funnier and funnier, but it also get darker and darker and darker. So at some point you're like, that's not gonna make it.
Yeah. Did you learn anything from working with those guys?
Just how loose they are, the relationship. And it's all about relationships, in working. You're as good as the next person that you're acting with. So when you're working with people with their caliber, it makes it a lot easier.
Yeah. So I know that growing up, your favorite series was actually Rocky, the movies.
The film, yeah.
And you ended up playing ex-boxers in a couple roles.
I've done a few.
Did you have any boxing experience prior to doing that?
In my head?
In your head?
In my head, yeah. In my head, I've been champion of the world a few times, yeah. I created my younger brother, which he and I would go 15 rounds after we would watch the Rocky films, drive my mom nuts. No, I had done a film a few years before called Hunting of Men, and I played an ex-con in that film. And one of the things I did to train for the character was I did a little bit of boxing. With a friend of mine who's an ex-boxer, excellent actor, but he's an ex-boxer, and I trained a little bit with him. So that was the experience I had in boxing. I did play baseball for a lot of years, so I am somewhat athletic.
Yeah.
That helps, but it's a whole different. I would never say I'm a boxer because I wouldn't survive a second.
Yeah.
I think I could hit, but I don't like getting hit. Yeah. So the moment they hit me, I'm like, all right, stop. Don't hit me in the face.
Not the face.
Not the face.
The
not the
moneymaker.
face. Can't take any more. Don't hit the face.
So I know you just mentioned one of your roles was as an ex-con. A lot of it's kind of like a stereotype in Hollywood. Up until recently, I feel like most of the roles for Latino actors were, ex-convicts or Latina actors. It would be maids. How do you overcome, that stereotype when being cast?
I try not to think in those terms, and when I take a role, once I get cast within the boundaries of the role, I try to make it my own, and I make them human. And I think, there's some truth to all stereotypes, but there's also a person there, and that's what I tried to bring to the role, and I think that's why I've been able to get more work. Because of that reason, they're people, who behave a certain way, but they also care for somebody else, and they're also somebody's son and somebody's husband, and even though they might end up doing something bad. So I think that's what I try to do, and that makes the role interesting to me. If I thought I'm playing a stereotype, then I'm playing an idea, and that I try to stay away from, and I think that's what's kept me working and kept me playing other roles that are not the stereotype at the same time. Yeah.
Has anyone ever tried to put you in a stereotypical role? Or have you ever had an agent or a manager who, was like, oh, well, you're only allowed to play these roles, or you're only able to play these roles?
No, it hasn't really happened like that, but it's also when I've looked for agents or managers, that's one of the things I've asked. How do you see me as? And I think that's a question every actor should ask when they're looking for representation. Ask that person, don't just sign with anybody because you'll be stuck. And how do you see me? And the ones that said to me, well, I see you playing tough guys, only tough guys. That's how you're gonna. Then that was something I stayed away from, because that's not how I envisioned myself. When I first decided that I wanted to be an actor, the actors I looked up to were Robert De Niro, Al Pacino, and they were. You can say they've played stereotypes, but not really. They have range. They played all types of roles that are interesting. So that's how I envision myself, and so that's what I was looking to hear when I would meet with agents or managers.
You want to steer clear of those people who are going to typecast you.
If they're going to typecast, if the person who's representing me is typecasting me already, no, I would run from that, because You know, the business will do that to you. They'll try to typecast
yeah.
you because you're hiring someone. It's a business. When that aspect is a business, and you're hiring someone, and if you're hiring somebody who's just, you know, if you're going to a dentist, you're not going to hire somebody who's an orthopedic. You're going to hire somebody who you know has been a dentist, and maybe this dentist is a great orthopedic. This is probably a horrible example. Horrible. As I'm saying, I'm drowning here. But you wouldn't hire him to be an orthopedic because you've only seen him as a dentist.
Yeah.
Even though he might be, you know, he's had experience and he studied, and that's what feels safe to people, to hire someone who they've seen him do this before.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't mean that person's not capable of you know, doing more.
Yeah.
And I think that's when as an actor, you try to expand and do a little more and show that you have
versatility, in your characters.
And sometimes you need to take control of your career and go out and do theater and do, you know, create your own projects.
Yeah. And that's something that you've actually done a lot of, is creating your own projects. I know that you co-wrote a movie with your wife, Chuti Tiu. And what got you into writing?
Well, necessity. Writing is not my passion. Writing is hard work. It was a film that a friend of mine wrote he was my roommate when we first moved to LA, and I'm not sure if that's what you're referring to. He first wrote this when we moved to LA, of characters that he had worked. I was working as a telemarketer, and I was working with incredible characters around me, telemarketing office. And so we came up with this idea of this guy, and so we wrote a film. He actually wrote the film, and I would come up with ideas, and he had ideas of working in an office himself, and he was working as a security guard in an office building. So that's how we came up with this idea. Then years later, my wife and I rewrote that story and cut characters and made it more feasible to shoot with a low budget. Mm-hmm. So that was one that I co-wrote, and then there's another film that I directed that my wife wrote. That she wrote on her own.
Okay.
I had nothing to do with.
And what led you to direct?
Well, she had written this film called Pretty Rosebud, mm-hmm. and we were looking for a director. We decided who we wanted to make the film, and that we're looking for a director, and we kept talking to different people, and I just we both felt that they didn't have the right sensibility for the project. It's about a woman in a bad marriage, unhappy marriage. She's a career woman in an unhappy marriage, and she's successful at what she's doing. She's in the up and up, and she works for a marketing company, but she's not happy, and she makes wrong choices in her life, and in the process of finding herself. So it was very easy to judge her, and we definitely did not want that. Mm-hmm. She was not perfect, and that's the thing that attracted me to that character, that she was flawed. She was a good person, but in her journey to finding herself, she was making mistakes, like we all do. So at some point, I got the directing bug, and the more I read it, I'm like, you know what, I know how to shoot this. I think I know how to shoot this.
Yeah. Do you find it easier to direct now that you've done so much acting? Like doing...
Yeah. Well, yeah. If I hadn't done this much acting, I wouldn't be able to direct because I didn't study directing. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I had the privilege and pleasure of working with a lot of directors. So you start seeing what works and what doesn't work, what you like that they're doing and what you don't like. When something's going wrong on the set, you're like, well, okay, this person's not prepared, or they showed up to a location and they don't know how they're going to shoot the scene beforehand. And so you start seeing the mistakes. You learn as much from the bad things as the good things.
Yeah.
So I was influenced by both, and I tried not making those mistakes, and made sure I had a good DP, director of photography. Did a lot of preparation. So once I showed up on the set, I knew exactly how I was going to shoot the scene. I had already directed the actors beforehand. So meaning I wasn't going to tell an actor how to play the scene, because I don't like that myself. But I was kind of guiding them by questions I posted beforehand okay, what do you think? And I didn't want the answer. I didn't want them to answer that, but to think of which direction this film, because we all, as an actor, we're in the service of the story. And I wanted everybody to be on the same page, to be in service of the story.
So you kind of directed the way that you would want to be directed.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
So your wife, Chuti,
yes,
I know that you two met in acting class.
We met in acting class.
And you've known each other for a decade now.
Yeah.
Right? So
more than a decade.
What was the story of how you two started dating?
How we started dating. I met her when I moved to LA. A little after I moved to LA, I went to this acting class. Sal Romeo, great acting teacher out here in LA. And I met Chuti. She was my first day in class. They paired me up to do a scene with her, and I thought it was a scene from Shortcuts. I think the film, Robert Altman, Shortcuts, about a husband and wife, who the wife is cheating on the husband, and they get into this horrible argument. And I'm doing this.
Hopefully not life imitating.
Hopefully not, yeah. And I'm doing the scene, and she starts acting out on sound, which I didn't know what it was at the time, because where I had studied before, they wouldn't do that. So she starts, oh, I hate this. I hate the scene. I'm like, what the hell is going on here? And I thought, she's nuts. I'm like, this woman's nuts. And then after I met her, I realized she is nuts. She wasn't acting. So that's how we met, and then we started going out. I think about 3-4 years later, we started going out, and it happened that we were paired up to do a scene in class. So we started hanging out, and that's how we started going out.
Aww. So a lot of people, there is a debate in Hollywood whether you should date someone who's also talent, if you are a talent, or whether you should try to steer clear of that. What are the positives to dating another actor?
The positives, that they know what you're going through, that they know actors are a little crazy and weird sometimes, and we need our space, especially when we're creating or we're in character, or, you know, I try not to bring the character home, but a lot of these characters that I played are a little dark. So even if I not behaving like, you know, like a killer or something at home, you're still in a weird space. And being with an actor, she understands that. She's not like, you know, hey, you're acting strange, stop acting that way. Or she understands what the process is and what I'm going through, and vice versa. So I think, and supportive when you're not working, or when things go badly, or when you go to an audition. Unless you're an actor, it's hard to explain what happens when you go to an audition, why you got nervous.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get nervous in audition. It's the weirdest thing. And so when you tell somebody who's not an actor, you know, I got nervous. An actor knows. But if you tell somebody else, they'll just say, why? Don't get nervous. There's no reason to get nervous.
Yeah. And Chuti's also going to be a guest on our show as well. So you two have worked together in acting class, but then you also wrote the screenplay together, or I guess redid the screenplay together.
We did another screenplay, but not the film that I shot. The film that I shot, she wrote by herself.
Yeah.
As a director, you give notes. Of course, once you get a script, you give notes. Okay, maybe we can cut these lines or this, you know. But it's based on what you plan to shoot and how you plan to shoot it. Yeah. But it's not. I didn't write. I had nothing to do with the writing of the film.
Do you guys ever run into any creative differences when working together?
All the time. All the time.
How do you deal with that?
It becomes interesting conversations or arguments. And it can be watching a film and just saying, well, I really think that character meant this, and she's like, nah, I don't think the character meant that, I think they meant this, and so we'll go back and forth. Or just preparation, you know, we talk about, we're totally different actors, so we go about our work in a different style, different way. So sometimes we've got into conversation about the scene, but not that we don't impose on each other. We're very much aware that we're different and we work differently, but we've had conversations about a film or screenplay, and we totally disagree on the screenplay, and she might think it's horrible and I might think it's good, or vice versa.
But you work it out in the end.
We work it out and just agree to disagree on the
so nowadays social media is playing a huge role in launching people's careers. I know that you actually landed a role because you posted a scene of yours on Facebook.
It was cold case. It was a cold case. I posted some of my scenes on Facebook, and somebody else had seen the video that I posted, and he knew of a cast. He knew that a casting director had been looking for a role in the film for a while, so he grabbed the link that I had put on Facebook and sent it to the casting director. And next thing I know, my manager's getting a call from this casting director, so I can come in. And it turns out that then I go in and I met the director, and because of that, the director had seen me in Cain.
Oh wow!
So he knew he had seen my work.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, he hadn't thought of me until that moment.
Yeah.
So it was thanks to Facebook.
Awesome. Have you gotten any other roles because of?
Approached about things and projects, and yeah, I would say that I've gotten, that I've been, I wouldn't say directly, oh, okay, I was offered this directly because of Facebook, but I've been on people's radar.
Yeah.
Because of Facebook.
So you have had a plethora of roles. Is there a role that you haven't had that you would, dream to, or that you really want in the future?
There are many. There are many roles that I
Is there one that you would just blow out of the water?
That's a great question. And I've been asked that before, and I always stumble with that question. I have a hard time. Remake of Scarface. Did I ever made it?
You want to be?
I would be Tony
One
Montana.
of the gangsters. Okay.
And I would do the real Cuban accent. Not that Al Pacino wasn't great in that role. It's funny because it's very interesting. Cubans don't speak exactly like Al Pacino does in Tony Montana, but when they imitate how Cubans speak, they imitate Tony Montana.
Yeah.
Which is very funny. So that's incredible.
There have been a lot of remakes lately.
Of a lot of stuff, so why
maybe
not?
Scarface.
So why not? If somebody's gonna make Scarface, I can be Tony Montana.
You can do it.
I know the character, I know the city, I know the story. Please cast me as Tony Montana.
The shameless plug.
Totally.
So, moving forward, what do you hope to accomplish in your career and in your life?
I hope to keep working consistently. That the roles get bigger and bigger films, and to keep directing. I really enjoy directing, so I hope.
You caught the directing bug?
I did because you have full control of the story. It's like everything that's there. You say yes, you say no. I like the dress, not that one. The colors, this, the set. You control this whole world. It's the closest thing to being God.
Yeah, and then seeing the final product come together.
The final product, and at the same time, I'm joking. I said closest thing to being God, but at the same time, knowing that you're hiring good people at what they do and that you need them, because in no way or form do I think that I can do what the DP is doing better, or sound or this and that. So I love that directing is so inclusive of the people that are around you, and then you need the actors to surprise you and be better than you have ever imagined the scene could be. Yeah. And I think that's beautiful. And then when you're editing, and then the editor's doing magic, and you want the scene to go this way, and the editor will say, well, what if we do this and that, and then you see it and you're like, oh, that works so much better. Okay, since you did that, let's do this. And it's a beautiful thing, and I really enjoyed it.
Cool. So shameless plug time.
Okay.
You are in Hangover 3. People can see that in theaters now. What other projects do you have?
Well, there's a few films that I can't even disclose yet. There's one that should be pretty big. That I'm hoping it all goes through. I should find out by the end of the month. And there's a pilot that I shot a couple months ago called What's Up in L.A. And it's about a Cuban family that moves to L.A. because my son wants to be an actor, which is weird playing somebody's father to me. I still can't see myself as somebody who's in their 20s. It's a comedy. It's a half-hour comedy. I play one of the lead roles. The pilot, Paul Rodriguez, was in the pilot also, and great cast. And we're hoping to get picked up by a network. So they're pitching that around right now.
Well, I'll cross my fingers for you.
I'll be back here.
Yes, you should be back here. Talking about our after shows.
Exactly.
So, where can people find you? Twitter, Facebook,
Twitter,
website?
Facebook, Oscar Torre actor at Twitter, and Facebook. Just look for Oscar Torre without the S. If you get the S, you find somebody else.
don't add the S.
No,
it'll be your friend.
It'll be me. You'll get my friend, who's an excellent writer. So if you're looking for a writer, just call him.
Yes. So you can find me on Twitter at Catherine Kelly. Oscar, thank you so much for joining us today. I also want to mention very quickly to subscribe to us on iTunes if you're watching us on AfterBuzzTV.com or watching us on YouTube. Just take 30 seconds, go over to our iTunes page, click subscribe. You can find all of AfterBuzz's after shows there, as well as Chatting with Cathy. So until next time, we will talk to you later.
From Bing.com, executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
Take two.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.